Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a really fascinating, extensive look into, well, a foundational text of the modern wellness movement. Louise Hay's, You Can Heal Your Life. I mean, this book, it's sold over 30 million copies worldwide.
Incredible numbers.
Right. So our mission today is to break down its core philosophy, take a look at her diagnostic method, and maybe most importantly, detail the practical tools she offers.
Yeah, the affirmations, the mirror work, those forgiveness techniques.
Yeah.
All aimed at, well, total life transformation.
Exactly.
And it's crucial, I think, for you listening to understand that Hay's premise. It's not just feel-good fluff, you know?
Not at all.
It's this profound and honestly pretty radical call for self-responsibility. We're going to try and synthesize her system,
Right.
which basically argues that our internal thought patterns, they're directly responsible for our external realities.
Everything, like finances,
relationships, even our physical health. That's the core idea.
Okay, let's unpack that central belief right away then, because, yeah, it's the cornerstone of the whole thing.
It really is.
Hay introduces this concept of universal responsibility, and she really doesn't pull any punches.
No, she doesn't.
She states, flat out, that we are each responsible for all of our experiences.
Every single one.
Every last one. Even the ones that feel totally random or, cruel.
And that's where the radical nature of her work really kicks in, I think. Most self-help, it focuses on controlling your behavior, maybe your external circumstances.
Sure, makes sense.
But hey, she focuses solely on the internal reality. And the reasoning behind that is what she calls the power of creative thought.
Creative thought, okay.
She insists that every single thought we think is actively, creatively building our future.
Wow. So the circumstances, the people, the events we run into.
They're just manifestations, physical reflections of the mental pictures we're holding inside. So if you believe your life is just perpetually difficult, the universe, according to her system, must deliver difficult experiences because that validates your belief. It has to.
I think, a lot of listeners, myself included maybe, might initially struggle with that degree of responsibility.
Of course. It's huge.
If something genuinely awful happens, like an accident or a betrayal, is she really saying we created that specific thing?
Well, she's arguing we created the pattern that allowed that scenario, that kind of event, to enter our field of experience. Does that make sense?
Okay, the pattern, not the specific event necessarily.
Exactly. If we blame the outer world, people, institutions, fate, whatever, we're actually giving away our power to change anything.
Right.
By taking 100% responsibility for what's in our minds, we take back 100% of our control over life. That's the logic.
And she offers immediate hope then, because that sounds potentially overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. She offers hope by repeatedly stressing the point of power.
Which is always in the present moment.
Yeah.
I notice she hammers this home again and again.
Yeah, she really does. The past. It's done. Your past thoughts, yeah, they created your current situation, sure.
Okay.
But the moment you recognize this, your power rests entirely in the thought you are choosing right now.
So if you spend the present moment just blaming the past.
You're using your power, your creative thought, to create more difficulty in the future.
Right.
But if you spend this moment choosing, say, self-acceptance, you start a completely new path. Instantly.
And the mechanism for how this works, according to Hay, it involves the universe itself. It sounds almost scientific, the way she describes it.
It's like the ultimate impartial mirror.
Yeah.
Hay sees the universe as this vast, supportive entity, and it's totally non-judgmental.
So it doesn't criticize us for negative thoughts.
Not at all. It simply accepts them as our command, our request, and reflects those experiences back to us.
So if you believe you're worthy of abundance.
The universe finds a way. It delivers abundance if you keep affirming that life is hard.
It delivers hardness.
Dutifully, yeah. It never says, oh, no, you don't deserve that thought. It only says, your wish is my command.
Okay. Given that constant feedback loop, that high-stakes mirroring, it makes the state of our subconscious, our default thinking, like the most critical factor in life.
Absolutely. And she found one devastating default pattern, one core belief that she felt underpins pretty much all suffering.
The bottom line problem, she calls it.
That's the one. After years working with clients, people dealing with everything from, serious illness to severe debt,
Yeah.
she concluded that the single most damaging core belief people hold the root of self-hatred, of guilt, is that simple statement, I'm not good enough.
Wow. That belief sounds like the original sin in her system. It justifies every other negative thing that happens.
Precisely. If you believe deep down that you're unworthy, well, you'll attract partners who confirm that. You'll sabotage financial opportunities.
Makes sense.
And your body, she believed, will manifest that emotional distress as physical disease.
Disease!
Get it?
Yeah, lack of ease, that lack of self-worth is the foundational pattern she's trying to dismantle then.
Exactly. That's the target.
So, if the poison is this lack of self-worth, the antidote must be, well, equally potent, but maybe simple.
The antidote is direct, yeah. But it's often difficult to practice, especially at first. It's self-approval and self-acceptance, practiced in the now.
In the now, not when things get better.
Right now, exactly as you are. Hay asserts that when we truly love ourselves, accept ourselves just as we are flaws, and all right here, right now, everything in our life starts to work properly.
She calls love the miracle cure.
She does, because it dissolves the need for the symptoms, the need for the resistance we create. It's really the only thing she truly works on with any client, getting them to that place of self-love.
Okay, so if that feeling of I'm not good enough is the core poison, then the next step in Hay's method is, well, diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. How does it show up?
Right. She moves into part 2 by looking at how that internal belief actually manifests in the external world. She breaks client complaints down into 4 main areas.
Yeah, these are the outer effects, the symptoms of that core negative programming inside. The first one, and often the most pressing for people coming to her, is the body doesn't work.
Okay, so like chronic pain, illness.
Chronic pain, acute illness, just persistent aches, or even just feeling run down, tired all the time. Hay views all physical ailments as outer signs of locked-in emotional distress, often linked to things like unforgiveness or self-criticism.
Got it. Second category.
The one almost everyone bumps into at some point. Relationships don't work.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about breakups. It's about attracting the same kind of partner over and over, demanding, criticizing, smothering, maybe totally absent emotionally.
Creating a cycle.
Exactly. A cycle of dissatisfaction, maybe even emotional abuse. The partner, in Hay's view, is simply mirroring the client's own internal belief that they aren't worthy of stable, healthy love.
Wow. Okay, third area.
Third, and yeah, very relevant for many people today, is finances don't work.
Money troubles.
It's not necessarily abject poverty, but often chronic instability. Money is either just not there or never quite enough.
Or it disappears quickly if you get it.
Right. A large sum comes in, maybe, but it slips through your fingers just as fast. Unexpected bills, accidents, bad investments, you name it.
And the underlying belief there.
The person is unconsciously holding on to the belief, I am not worthy of sustained wealth, or maybe money is bad, or rich people are greedy, something like that.
Okay. And the final category. It seems pretty broad.
Yeah, life doesn't work. This kind of catches a lot of that chronic life dissatisfaction.
Like procrastination.
Perpetual procrastination, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a desperate need to please other people, often sacrificing your own needs entirely. Or just that general sense of futility, feeling like you have no talent, or that nothing you try ever really pans out.
So what's brilliant here, you're saying, is her diagnostic approach. She doesn't just treat the symptom, the debt, or the illness.
No, she shifts the client away from blaming the external thing, the boss, the diagnosis, the debt collector, towards recognizing the underlying internal thought pattern. She asks really detailed questions about their life, sure, but she pays intense attention to body language.
Why the body language?
Because the body often tells the truth. The mind is trying to hide or rationalize away.
Interesting. And she uses this specific exercise, the I should exercise, as a kind of direct line to the inner critic.
Oh, yeah. The should exercise is incredibly revealing. Tell us more about that word should. Why is it so potent?
Hay considers should one of the most damaging words in our vocabulary.
Really? Why?
Well, think about it. When a client lists, say, 5 things they should do, they're basically expressing an external standard they feel they're failing to live up to.
Okay, yeah.
She argues that every single time we use that word should, we're reinforcing guilt. We're implying that we are wrong, or we were wrong, or we're going to be wrong. It denies our own choice, our agency.
And when she asks the client why they feel they should do these things, what's the answer that comes up from deep down?
It's always an admission of inadequacy, but it's framed as a personal flaw.
Ah.
The client is forced to actually say the deep self-judgment out loud, like, I should stop eating junk food because I feel too fat, or I should work harder because I feel too lazy.
Or I should apply for that job, but I feel too worthless to even try.
Exactly. It always boils down to feeling too something, too ugly, too short, too dumb, too lazy, too whatever.
So the linguistic fix is simple, but it sounds like it could be really powerful.
It is. It's the immediate practical shift she recommends.
Right.
Just replace should with could.
Should with could.
Yeah. The word could instantly brings back choice. I could apply for that job.
Yeah.
That implies you have the power, the option. And if you choose not to, it's a conscious choice, not some moral failure driven by guilt.
That one word change really shifts the energy.
Definitely. It starts the process of letting go of those imposed external standards.
So, okay, regardless of which of those four areas the client starts with, the debt, the illness, the relationship mess, she keeps coming back to the same root cause.
Always. The underlying problem is always rooted in the lack of loving the self.
That's her core thesis, really. When we lack self-worth, we manifest it in tangible, self-sabotaging ways.
Like criticizing ourselves constantly.
Endlessly. Internally, externally. We mistreat our bodies maybe through food, alcohol, drugs, or just neglect.
Right.
We actively attract and then accept partners who belittle us because, well, it feels familiar. It aligns with our own low opinion of ourselves.
Wow.
We create chaos and disorder because order and peace might suggest we're actually worthy of a calm life. Even being afraid to charge a decent price for our skills or services.
That's a lack of self-worth, too.
Absolutely. It's an expression of believing I'm not really worth that much.
And to give us a model, a picture of what real self-love looks like, she uses the example of a tiny baby.
Yes. The baby is the perfect blueprint for self-acceptance. A baby just knows instinctively that they're the center of the universe.
Huh. Yeah, they do act like it.
They express their emotions without any shame, right? If they're angry, they scream. If they're happy, they gurgle. They know exactly what they want, and they ask for it. Loudly.
True.
And crucially, they love every single part of their body without judgment, even their own poop. They're just perfect, and they act like it.
So Hay's whole process is about guiding adults back to that original, inherent state of self-acceptance.
That's the goal.
And the immediate tool she gives us to confront that self-hatred directly is the famous mirror work.
Yes. This is often the most confrontational exercise for people.
How does it work?
She instructs you to stand in front of a mirror, look directly into your own eyes, and speak two core statements. First, say your name, then say, I love and accept you exactly as you are.
Just like that.
Just like that. And she notes that for many, many clients, this provokes a fierce, immediate, visceral reaction.
Like what?
They might burst into tears instantly, or feel this wave of profound anger, or they might start physically pointing out flaws, belittling their own features they see in the reflection.
Why the mirror, though? Why not just say the affirmation, in your head or out loud somewhere else?
Good question. Because the eyes, traditionally, are seen as the gateway to the soul, to the inner child.
Okay.
The mirror forces you to confront that self-judgment directly, face to face. If you just try to fix the symptom, the weight, the debt, you haven't touched the core belief underneath.
Right.
The mirror work kind of bypasses the logical, rational mind and goes straight to the emotional core, the self-criticism. The idea is to dissolve the cause so the symptom, once it's resolved, doesn't just pop up again in a different form later on.
Okay, so if the mirror work helps diagnose that active self-hatred, the next logical step in Hay's system seems to be the mental house cleaning, tracing where these limiting beliefs actually came from.
Exactly. Where did we learn this stuff? Because the origin is learned behavior. We weren't born believing we were unworthy. We learned it somewhere. We learned how to feel about ourselves, about the world, mostly by observing the subtle and sometimes not so subtle reactions of the adults around us when we were very, very small.
So if we grew up with adults who were maybe frightened or unhappy or super critical,
We absorbed those beliefs like little sponges. Beliefs like, the world is dangerous, or I never do anything right, or maybe showing anger makes me a bad person.
and then we unconsciously recreate that same emotional environment as adults.
Often, yes. We attract partners or bosses or situations that perfectly mirror those early critical patterns. It feels normal, even if it's painful.
Which naturally leads to the temptation to blame our parents for all this conditioning. How does Hay handle that? It seems like an easy trap to fall into.
It is an easy trap. She takes a stance that's both compassionate and quite firm. She often said we are all victims of victims.
Victims of victims, meaning,
Meaning our parents did the absolute best they could, given the understanding, the awareness, the knowledge they had at the time.
right.
If your mother, for example, was taught that criticizing herself constantly was a form of humility, how could she possibly teach you radiant self-love? She couldn't give what she didn't have.
So blaming them is,
Counterproductive. It just keeps us stuck, anchored in the past, replaying old hurts.
okay. Then she introduces a really spiritualized idea, maybe controversial for some, the idea that we actually choose our parents.
Yes. This is definitely a massive leap for a purely logical, materialist mindset.
How does she explain the reasoning behind this choice?
It really moves into the spiritual realm.
Hmm.
Concepts like karma, reincarnation. Hay believed that before we're born, our soul chooses to incarnate here on Earth, specifically to learn certain spiritual lessons or to overcome specific emotional patterns we need to work through.
So the parents we pick are perfectly suited for that.
They're the perfect experts, you could say, or the perfect mirrors for the exact patterns we came here to work on in this lifetime. They didn't do it to us. On some level, they agreed to be the catalyst for our required growth.
Accepting that perspective sounds crucial for moving past blame.
It is. It shifts the focus entirely from victimhood to purpose. It's essential for forgiveness later on.
So, to identify the specific negative thoughts we picked up back then, she suggests the negative messages exercise. What's involved there?
It's basically an inventory of your conditioning. You're instructed to sit down and list every single negative message you can remember hearing as a child.
Not just from parents.
No, everyone. Parents, relatives, teachers, friends, authority figures, even messages you absorbed from religious institutions or just general societal attitudes.
What kind of messages?
Things like, money is the root of all evil, or you'll never amount to anything, children should be seen and not heard, don't air your dirty laundry in public, you know, those old recordings.
Right. The goal is to surface those beliefs that are now running subconsciously, dictating our adult behavior and feeding that not good enough feeling.
Exactly. Get them out in the open.
Once those messages are listed out, the critical step is to challenge them. She asks that core question, is it true?
Right. And this is where we examine the gap between the truth of our beliefs versus the, let's say, truth of the universe, or just objective reality.
But she says the logical truth doesn't really matter.
Well, what matters most is whether you believe it to be true. Hay maintains that whatever we choose to believe deeply becomes our operating truth. It dictates our experience.
So if you truly believe, way down deep, that you're unworthy of having money,
You will unconsciously create or attract financial disaster, regardless of how hard you work externally, because your belief is the blueprint creating your experience.
she keeps reinforcing this by connecting specific outer problems, like always being a people pleaser,
Yeah.
to the underlying inner belief, like, I never get my way.
Yes, making that direct link. And she makes it incredibly clear that the past, where those beliefs started, is fundamentally irrelevant compared to the power of now.
Back to the present moment again.
Always. The past is just a memory, a thought pattern we're holding in the present moment. We are the only thinker in our mind.
Right.
If we can truly accept that the past is over and done, and the only real power we possess is the power of the current thought right now, we immediately open the door to change. It's liberating.
Okay, this all sounds wonderful, powerful in theory, but here's where it gets tricky for most of us, right?
Yeah.
Resistance.
Yes, resistance.
We might agree intellectually, yeah, I created this pattern, but why is actually changing it so fiercely resisted by, well, ourselves?
Resistance is completely normal. Hay stresses that. And becoming aware of your resistance is actually the first real step towards healing.
Okay, so why do we resist?
We resist because the old pattern, even if it's painful, is known. It's familiar territory. Change, even positive change, represents the terrifying unknown.
That makes sense.
Also, Hay points out that our resistance often flares up because her methods can feel almost too simple or too easy to possibly resolve decades of pain. Or sometimes they just feel threatening to our current identity, our established ego.
We don't want to change because the pattern gives us something.
Exactly. Even if that something is just the familiar, comfortable identity of being a victim or being someone who struggles, letting go of that can feel like losing a part of yourself.
She gives a very specific, really insightful list of how this resistance actually shows up in daily life. It's more than just putting things off.
Oh yeah, it manifests physically and environmentally too. On a bodily level, resistance might show up as nonverbal cues.
Like what?
Like tightly crossing your arms when the topic comes up, or abruptly changing the subject when someone asks about an issue you're avoiding, or even suddenly getting sick, a headache, a cold, just as you're about to start a positive change exercise.
Wow. And the environmental tactic.
That's the creating breakdowns part. Suddenly your car breaks down, the plumbing floods, your computer crashes right before you were going to work on your affirmations.
So external chaos created unconsciously to justify delaying the internal work.
That's the idea. And procrastination, of course, is a huge one. Wasting time doing busy work, cleaning the house instead of journaling, anything to avoid the main task of change.
And underneath all these visible tactics, what are the core beliefs that are actually fueling this resistance?
It usually falls to a couple of main categories. First, you've got the self-limiting excuses. Oh, I'm too old to change now. I'm just too lazy. My case is different. You don't understand.
Right, the special pleading.
Yeah. And second, and this is the big one, is fear. Fear of the unknown, naturally, fear of failure, but often, just as powerfully, fear of rejection.
Rejection. How so?
That agonizing, often unconscious question, what would the neighbors think? Or what would my family say if I suddenly became successful or happy or healthy? Would they still accept me?
Hmm. We also see people giving their power away, right? Like, my spouse won't let me change, or my doctor doesn't want me to do that.
Exactly, blaming external authorities instead of taking responsibility for their own willingness.
Which brings us to a really crucial distinction she makes. The difference between willpower and willingness. We're often taught we have to fight our problems with discipline, right? Grit your teeth.
Right, but Hay says just forcing symptom removal using willpower is basically useless in the long run. Because willpower is just fighting the symptom. Willingness aims to dissolve the root cause. So if you use sheer willpower to quit smoking, you might succeed for a bit.
Yeah.
But the underlying need, maybe it was a need for self-punishment or a need to manage anxiety, that need remains untouched.
So it just attaches to something else.
Exactly. That emotional need will simply find a new symptom to latch onto. Maybe you start overeating, maybe you develop chronic anxiety, maybe you become a workaholic. The symptom will just crop up somewhere else.
So the secret isn't forcing the change, but reaching a state of surrender, letting go.
Absolutely. The key is shifting your focus to the willingness to release the need. You have to become genuinely willing to let go of the need for the condition.
The need for the illness, the need for the resistance, the need for the poverty.
Yes. When that emotional or subconscious need is genuinely gone, dissolved, the desire for the physical manifestation, the cigarette, the chaotic relationship, the financial struggle often just fades away, naturally, effortlessly. That willingness to let go of the old pattern is the real secret that unlocks lasting transformation.
All right, part 4 is where we get really practical. It's dedicated entirely to the tools, the specific things we need to do to start making this shift from resistance to release. Hay emphasizes nurturing willingness, controlling the mind, and the huge power of forgiveness.
Yeah, this is the how-to. For nurturing that willingness to release an old pattern, she gives us a core practical affirmation.
What is it?
It's, I am willing to release the pattern in me that is creating this condition. Simple, but powerful.
I'm willing to release the pattern.
And she often suggests gently touching your throat area while you repeat this affirmation.
The throat. Why the throat specifically?
Yeah.
Is that symbolic?
In many metaphysical or energy work traditions, yeah, the throat chakra is seen as the center for communication, but also, crucially, it's considered the center where change happens, where we accept new ideas. So by placing your hand there and saying this affirmation, you're kind of physically signaling to your body, hey, I'm open to this process of change. Let's overcome those unconscious blocks I've been holding here.
Let's go back to the example of smoking, because she uses that to show how deep this release needs to go, right?
She does. So a smoker might initially try to release the need for the cigarette itself. Seems logical.
Right.
But through doing their inner work, their mental house cleaning, they might discover the real emotional driver wasn't the nicotine at all. It was maybe a deep-seated need to be criticized, perhaps reflecting a pattern set up in a very critical childhood.
And the cigarette became a way to fulfill that need.
Exactly. It became a kind of smoke screen, literally and figuratively, for that internal pain or need. So once they work on releasing the need to be criticized maybe by affirming their self-worth, practicing self-love, the craving for the cigarette often just vanishes effortlessly because the underlying need is gone.
That really reframes addiction. It connects back to her idea that the mind is a tool, not our master. We have to untrain and retrain it.
Constantly, by consciously choosing new thoughts.
And this highlights that point again. We don't necessarily control external events or even the random thoughts that just pop into our heads.
Nope.
But we have absolute control over one thing.
The current thought. That is the only real control center we possess. If a negative thought bubbles up, the instruction isn't to fight it or suppress it.
What then?
You simply acknowledge it, oh, there's that old thought again, and then consciously, deliberately choose a new thought, usually a positive affirmation, to put in its place.
So it's constant vigilance.
It is. It's about transforming the mind from being this runaway freight train of fear and old programming into a dedicated, obedient servant focused on creating what you actually want.
I appreciate that she doesn't make this purely a mental exercise, though. She includes physical releasing techniques.
Absolutely critical. Because emotional patterns aren't just in the head. They often get stored physically, locked into the body's tissues and posture.
So if you have years of pent-up anger, for example.
It needs an outlet.
Mm.
It needs to move. She recommends structured physical releases. Things like going somewhere private, your car, a room alone, and just yelling at the top of your lungs.
Or hitting pillows.
Or hitting pillows,
Yeah.
punching a mattress, screaming into a cushion. Whatever allows the physical body to safely discharge that stored emotional energy that was locked inside. Doing that makes the mental affirmation work much, much more effective afterwards.
Okay, this leads us directly into what feels like one of the absolute pillars of her work, the pathway of forgiveness. She ties almost all suffering back to one emotional state.
She does. Hay is incredibly adamant about this point. All disease comes from a state of unforgiveness.
All disease. That's a strong statement.
It is. Unforgiveness, in her view, is the mental lock that keeps the past alive and painfully relevant right now. It prevents us from fully living in the present moment.
She has that saying like, when we refuse to forgive someone.
We are drinking poison ourselves and hoping the other person gets sick. The resentment, the bitterness,
Yeah.
it only hurts us. It's purely ours to carry.
So to help dissolve that heavy weight of resentment, she provides a very detailed, practical, spiritual exercise. It was actually developed by Emmett Fox, another New Thought writer.
That's right. This technique is highly structured and it's designed for consistency. First step, sit quietly, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and consciously relax your body.
Okay.
Second, visualize the person you resent the most. Picture them sitting comfortably, maybe on a small stage in front of you in your mind's eye.
Not visualizing the bad thing they did.
No, crucially, you don't visualize the resentment or the past offense. Instead, step 3, you actively see good things happening to them. Things that would genuinely make them happy and fulfilled.
Like what?
See them smiling, joyful, maybe receiving recognition, love, abundance, whatever good you can imagine for them, see them totally at peace.
Okay. Then what?
Fourth step. Hold that positive image for just a moment, maybe send them love or well wishes mentally, and then let the image gently fade away. Release the energy. And the instruction is key. Do this simple visualization daily for at least 1 month.
Wow, daily for a month. The power here isn't really about letting the other person off the hook, is it?
Not at all. It's about freeing yourself.
Mm.
By actively sending them love and visualizing their happiness, you are dissolving the dark, heavy energy of resentment that you have been carrying around inside you.
And if you do it consistently?
The memory of whatever happened loses its painful emotional charge. You're no longer chained to that past event or person. You get your energy back.
But the forgiveness can't just stop with other people. It has to be aimed inward, too.
Oh, absolutely non-negotiable. Self-forgiveness is critical. So many people find it easier to forgive others but hold themselves eternally accountable for past mistakes or perceived failings.
So there's an affirmation for that, too.
Simple and direct. I forgive myself for whatever the mistake was. You have to be willing to forgive the person you were back then who didn't have the knowledge, the awareness, or the resources you might possess now. Let that past self off the hook.
She also uses another really potent visualization technique. This one's about connecting with the past in a different way, fostering compassion for both ourselves and our parents.
Yes, this is deep healing work. You visualize the adult you are now, tenderly holding and hugging the 3-year-old child version of yourself.
Okay.
You comfort that tiny, maybe frightened or confused child. You offer unconditional love and acceptance. Tell that inner child they're safe now, they're loved.
And then you do the same for your parents.
Yes. You repeat the process, but this time you visualize your mother or your father as a small child, maybe 4 or 5 years old. See them as frightened, crying, looking for love, maybe enduring the same kind of neglect or criticism they later inflicted on you.
What does that achieve?
By holding and loving that trembling, vulnerable child version of your parent, you start to understand that their terrible things likely came from their own deep fear and pain. It fosters profound compassion, which dissolves anger and leads to healing for everyone involved, even if only in your own heart.
All right, moving into our final segment now, part 5, building the new. So the old patterns have been acknowledged. Hopefully willingness to release them is growing. Forgiveness work is happening. Now, how do we consciously fill that cleared space with what we do want?
The foundational principle here is super simple, but again requires vigilance. What you put your attention on grows.
Okay.
So we absolutely must stop focusing on the negative and what we don't want, because the universe, the subconscious mind, doesn't really hear the don't.
So if you affirm, I don't want to be fat.
All the universe or your subconscious registers strongly is fat. You're focusing energy on fat. You have to turn your attention, your intention, fully onto the positive affirmation of what you do want. I am vibrantly healthy and full of energy. Or, I am prosperous and abundance flows easily to me. You state the desired reality.
And the technical rules for crafting affirmations that actually work are pretty crucial, right?
Yeah.
Especially the tense.
Yes. They must always be made in the present tense. This is non-negotiable in Hay's system.
Meaning use I am or I have.
Exactly. If you say, I will be wealthy, or I want a wonderful new job, the subconscious mind, that obedient servant we talked about, takes that literally.
How so?
It keeps the wealth or the job perpetually in the future, just out of reach. Because that's what you asked for, something you will have or something you want, implying you don't have it now.
Ah, okay. The subconscious only understands the current moment.
Right. By stating, I am wealthy or I have a wonderful job, you bypass that waiting game. You declare the reality as already existing right now, which allows it to manifest.
Now, the single most potent tool for positive creation, she says again and again, remains that daily process of loving the self.
It's the bedrock, and she advocates for a specific, very active mantra, I approve of myself.
I approve of myself.
Her instruction is quite intense. Say this out loud over and over and over all day long for at least a full month. Make it your walking, living affirmation.
What does doing that actually achieve?
It acts like a powerful magnet. It surfaces every single buried thought, every hidden belief in your consciousness that stands in opposition to self-approval, all the yeah buts.
So when a thought pops up like, how can I possibly approve of myself when my finances are a total mess? Or how can I approve of this body? What's the instruction then?
You don't argue with it. You gently acknowledge that resistance thought, there's that old belief, maybe even thank you for showing up, and then just let it pass through without judgment. Don't latch onto it.
And return to the mantra.
And immediately return to the mantra, I approve of myself. You don't fight the resistance. You gently dissolve it with persistent, loving affirmation. The moment you start arguing with the negative thought, you give it energy and power.
I love the planting seeds analogy she uses here. It helps manage expectations about how quickly change happens.
Yes, it's a beautiful analogy. Creating a new reality is just like growing a tomato plant, she says. Your positive affirmation is the tiny seed you plant.
Right.
You have to water it consistently with more positive thoughts, more affirmations, and you need to gently pull out the negative weeds, those old limiting beliefs that keep trying to choke the new growth.
And when you see the first tiny sign of change,
that's the crucial moment. When you see the first tiny green shoot, the first little piece of evidence that your life is changing, maybe a small unexpected financial bonus or a slightly kinder interaction with someone or feeling a tiny bit better physically.
you don't dismiss it.
You absolutely must not stomp on it and say, that's not enough or that doesn't count. No. Instead, you need to look at that tiny breakthrough and exclaim with genuine joy and enthusiasm, oh boy, here it comes. Look, it's working.
You nurture the small change.
You celebrate it, you give it energy, you appreciate it, and then it grows stronger and expands into your new reality. But you have to notice and acknowledge the beginnings.
Okay, so building this new life requires a holistic strategy. She breaks down the nurturing process into 3 essential realms: mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, you have to tend to the whole being, starting with the body. She insists we have to work consciously with our nutrition. Feed the body respectfully, with foods that nourish it,
And exercise.
and find forms of exercise that you actually enjoy. She wasn't dogmatic about what kind, but emphasized modalities like Tai Chi, yoga, dancing, things that feel good. She personally loved using a small trampoline.
Why a trampoline?
She said it was great for the lymphatic system, getting things moving, and it kind of forces you into a joyous, childlike movement. She also advocated for body work, things like massage, reflexology, even rebirthing to help physically release those stored emotional patterns from the body's tissues.
Makes sense. And for the mind itself, beyond affirmations.
This involves active mental discipline.
Hmm.
Techniques like visualization, creating detailed mental pictures of your desired reality, guided imagery, continuing with affirmations, of course. And she was open to psychological techniques too, like Gestalt therapy or hypnosis, if they helped reprogram the mind.
So it's about consciously planting new seeds, but also,
Also finding quiet time. Time to allow your own internal knowingness, your intuition to surface, getting guidance from within rather than relying solely on external information or advice.
and finally, the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
She suggests this is maybe the deepest level of healing.
It often is. Here, the focus shifts to practices that connect us to something larger than ourselves, whatever that means to the individual.
Like meditation.
Meditation, prayer, consistent practice of forgiveness, both of self and others, and cultivating unconditional love. And importantly, she encouraged people to explore various spiritual groups or paths.
She wasn't prescriptive about one path.
Not at all. Whether it was established Christian churches or new thought groups like religious science or practices like transcendental meditation, the key was to find what resonated personally. To find a spiritual practice that felt supportive and uplifting for you. Recognizing that no single group holds the one true key for everyone. The journey is deeply personal.
This entire process, though, she really stresses, relies absolutely on consistency. Which brings us to her chapter, My Daily Work. It has to become a habit, not just something you do when you feel bad.
Exactly right. Change is a skill. It's like learning a new language or learning to use a computer back when they were new.
You won't be fluent on day one.
Not at all. You'll stumble, you'll make mistakes, it'll feel awkward at first, but you have to keep practicing. Think about it. If children gave up the first time they fell down while learning to walk, none of us would ever move.
Huh?
True.
That mantra, I'm doing the best I can, is a good starting point, especially when you slip up. But real dedication, consistent daily practice, is key to embedding the new patterns.
And she actually details her own personal daily routine as an example,
Sure.
right? To show how you can weave these practices into everyday life.
She does. Her personal routine, as she described it then, started immediately upon waking up. First thoughts, gratitude, just being grateful for being alive, for her body, for the day.
Okay.
After showering, she'd spend dedicated time meditating and doing her affirmations. Then she'd make time, maybe 15 minutes or so, for physical exercise, often using her beloved trampoline.
Then breakfast.
A healthy breakfast, consciously chosen. Throughout the day, she'd make time to read, to study things that inspired her, and she'd incorporate quiet time, maybe in the afternoon, for relaxation, perhaps listening to inspirational or instructional tapes.
So it wasn't just a morning thing. No, she found ways to reinforce it throughout the day. She even suggested things like using affirmations while you're doing mundane tasks, like brushing your teeth or waiting in line. Turn every moment into a potential opportunity for positive reinforcement.
And the payoff for this consistent work, she claims it can be pretty immediate and visible.
Yeah, she really believed that. She states that consistent use of these methods leads inevitably to a cascade of little miracles, synchronicities, things working out unexpectedly well, and the systematic, often gentle, elimination of unwanted conditions.
And she noticed physical changes in herself.
She did. She mentions being surprised herself that after just a few months of really diligent daily mental work, people started commenting, and she noticed herself that she began to look significantly younger.
Wow.
She saw it as the physical body responding directly to the internal shift towards self-love and self-approval. Your body literally reflects your state of mind.
So the ultimate result is learning to trust that the things and events you desire will start to pop up, sometimes seemingly out of the blue.
Exactly. You do the inner work consistently, and you learn to trust the process. And crucially, she emphasized that the entire transformation process needs to be enjoyable. It shouldn't feel like a grim duty or a hard slog.
Approach it as fun.
Approach it as a fun exploration of yourself, of your potential. If you do that, she believed, you actually accelerate the results, and you often gain these wonderful, never-imagined bonuses, unexpected benefits, and positive changes that far exceed the original goals you started with.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive into you can heal your life really powerfully synthesizes her central belief.
Mm-hmm.
Our inner thought patterns are truly the architects of our external reality.
Yeah, our health, our relationships, our finances, it all stems from inside, according to Hay.
And the profound work she demands, really, is that fundamental shift away from that devastating core belief I'm not good enough.
Towards total, radical, present moment love and approval of the self, exactly as you are.
Her methodology gives us tangible, operational steps, from spotting those shoulds to the mirror work, to that detailed Emmett Fox forgiveness technique.
All of it anchored in the power of present tense affirmation. I am. I have.
It really is a total overhaul of self-responsibility, isn't it?
Mhm.
Demanding that we constantly monitor and consciously choose our thoughts, knowing that the only point of power we ever have.
Is always right now, this very moment.
And Hay states it so clearly, so simply. Love is always the answer to healing of any sort.
Always the answer. So maybe for you, listening right now, the provocative thought is this. What is one small, consistent act of self-love that feels genuinely achievable for you?
Even if it seems too simple, or maybe even a bit silly.
Exactly. Could you commit to practicing just that one small thing this week? Maybe it's replacing one single should with could each day. Or maybe it's dedicating just 2 minutes, maybe 5, to looking in the mirror and saying, even if you don't fully believe it yet, I approve of myself.
Start there.
Start there, do it consistently, and just trust that the need for one of those long-held resistance patterns might just begin gently to dissolve.